Lately, I've been sleeping on the floor, and maybe I psychologically tricked myself into thinking that it gives me a competitive advantage. I don't know. If somebody agree with me, let me know. But I think I tricked myself into thinking that I get a competitive advantage because I understand and realize everybody's sleeping on the floor, on the bed every night. Everybody goes to sleep in the bed. So I've been sleeping on the floor for at least the past 2 years. Past 2 years, I've been sleeping on the floor every single day. And I think it gives me an advantage. And I think it's because I trained myself to ignore comfort or train myself to destroy comfort. And I constructed my mental model, my way of how I walk through the world. I move through the world in a way that I do not like comfort. I think that gives me a competitive edge because I think everybody should start to move away from comfort. I think comfort is the number one psyop that comes from the enemy. And the enemy wants us to be comfortable. The enemy wants us to be comfortable, sleeping in too long, scrolling and doom scrolling. This is what the enemy wants from us, but we have to break the trap. And the process of me sleeping on the floor, everybody genuinely recognized it. I remember we was having a get together and people came in my room that was like, why do you sleep on the floor? It hit me the way that they said it. And I said, you know what? I made a promise to myself, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? I don't know. But I did tell myself that until I get to a certain position that I want to get in, I will stay in my room and I will sleep on the floor. That was a promise that I made to myself. And I remember somebody heard me say this promise to myself. And then he tried to do it. And then he only lasted 2 days. He said, I made a promise to myself as well. I'm going to sleep on the floor until XYZ happens. And he made it to 2 days, but I managed to make it 2 years because it's an ongoing thing that I'm doing. It's an ongoing mission. But I think to do that mission, we have to carefully construct discomfort. A lot of people don't construct discomfort. The reason I sleep on the floor is so I can wake up with a backache and say, you know what? Let me do something so I can get out of this position. I sold my bed two years ago. I sold my bed 2 years ago and I sold my video games 3-4 years ago. I haven't touched these things in years. In years, I haven't touched these things. I'm truly being honest. And perhaps it was a coping mechanism. People can say everybody copes. Now, if you say you don't cope, that is a lie. It's just part of the human brain. But most people don't cope effectively. I learned how to cope effectively. So when my girlfriend passed away, I started to go down the rabbit hole of just straight discomfort. I went out to the wilderness, trained, fasted, all these different things, slept in a tent with no water, no food, with no cover, just to be discomfortable, just to use that pain as fuel to get to where I want to go. Because I want to make this clear. I think that instead of continuing to learn the hardest way, we should just learn the first time. But we're so stubborn. Something happens and we sit and say, I ignore it. Something happens again, I ignore it. Something happens again, I ignore it. Until finally we get the sting. We get that sting and it just hits so deep until it forced change. And I said, you know what? Instead of me waiting for that painful moment to change or be discomfortable, let me just construct it every day. And I truly think that gives me an advantage. I truly think that gives me an edge over my enemy or my competitors. And I guess I'm talking in this philosophy or this way that I view the world. I'm saying competitors because I believe I need something to go against because I've always grew up that way. My childhood, I grew up with sports. I grew up with teamwork. I grew up with sports. I grew up playing orchestra and all these different things. So I grew up playing football and I grew up playing chess and I grew up playing boxing. I'm talking about playing boxing. You don't play boxing. And I grew up boxing. These were competitive sports. You had to compete against the enemy. So I guess my same mindset when I stopped playing football and I started to gravitate towards more boxing, it's like when I'm not in the boxing gym, I still need something to fight against. So I guess it gives me a competitive edge against my enemy, even when I do go to the boxing gym, knowing that he has been sleeping on the bed. He's been sleeping on the bed. I've been sleeping on the floor. So it's just a mental trick that keeps me going. So I truly love the process. A lot of people may not like it, but I like it. This is how I live my days. I lay down, boom, 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 on the floor. This is how I'm starting to live my days. And I truly think it gives me a competitive edge and I like it. And I think if you haven't tried it, you should try it. Remove the bed. Some people are so not content. Some people are not grateful for actually what they have. Most people don't even understand it is a privilege to have a bed. You are living a privilege to have a bed. And people just go to sleep sound at night. Just be thankful for what you have. I was thankful enough to know that I'm going to remove my bed because I'm thankful for having my bed. I remember when I first did it, I did it as an experiment. And I made a video a long time ago. I think it was about 3-4 years ago. I said, sometimes we have to be thankful. Sometimes we have to remove the bed. We have to remove the bed. I remove things so I can be grateful. Some days I don't eat for 2-3 days just to be grateful for my food. I don't eat for 2-3 days. Or I'll stop drinking coffee for 2-3 days so I can be grateful for the energy that the coffee brings. Because it's kind of like, you know how coffee, if you drink it every day, you don't feel that same spike of drinking it if you haven't drunk it in a while. Some of the coffee drinkers would know what I'm saying. But even if it's not coffee, even if some of you drink alcohol, same thing. The tolerance basically is what I'm saying. The tolerance of the buildup. If you stop it for, let's say, a day or two, okay, yeah, you go a day or two, and then you do it again, you'll be more grateful for that opportunity. You'll be more grateful. So that's how I started to look at it when I did the experiment. I did that experiment, and then I did an experiment of no water, just to make myself grateful of water. Like, it's amazing to me that this is possible. Like, we as humans can sit here and be grateful for everything that we have. We can wake up and find the motivation in being grateful rather than finding the motivation always in the darkness, even though sometimes we are truly motivated by the darkness. Because when I think about the bad things that happened in my life, it was always when bad things were happening. When I think about the most time I got the most things done in my entire life was when bad things was happening. And then I switched and said, let me not always be motivated by the dark, because this is a human experience. Think back to a time where something bad has happened and you worked harder than that before. You start to produce more results from the discomfort that it caused, that energy, because it's truly energy. And I think that we as humans should not only be motivated by the dark, but also motivated by the light. You can sit here and be grateful and find things in your room. You know what? I'm grateful for this said object. For example, some people are making low amounts of money. Be grateful for what you have. Look up and break the bread and bless it. Say, thank you. I don't care if it's $1. You need to look up and thank the Lord for $1. Thank you for $1. And I can tell you this from experience, that you will get rewarded. For all of the pain and the suffering and the sadness and all of the things that you go through, a joy will come that cannot be replaced. These are the things that I've learned from sleeping on the floor. So all of these things ties into my point, into the title of the video. All these things pointed to my purpose. When I was down bad and I didn't know how to get out or anything, I just went to church. And you're supposed to give offering at the church. I didn't have any money to my name, but I had a couple pennies, and I just would take. People didn't even used to see me in there. I'd take all of my pennies. This was all that I had left to my name. I'm telling you, this is all I had. I didn't know how to make money. I wasn't in school. I wasn't in school anymore. I dropped out of college, quit my 9 to 5 because I wanted to figure out what it is that I wanted to do in my life. And I just started going to church. This was around the time after my girlfriend passed away. I just started going to church, dumping all my savings of pennies into an offering. And then now fast forward, God bless you. He blesses you. Now I'm not sitting on here saying I'm just rich. So you have to start to look at things in ways of not money. Every blessing that you have will not always be money. You need to be very, very thankful for the other blessings that you have that is not money. That allows you to be able to go through reality in a way. So to continue on to the story, I put all my pennies in there, all of them. Nobody could see me at the church. I'm trying not to making noise, putting all these pennies and stuff in there, but it was all I had. And I put it in there. And you get blessed back. You get rewarded. So everything, the moral of the story, the universe, God sees everything that you're doing. Whether that's sleeping on the floor, just to be grateful. Whether that's you going through hardship, you figuring out some way. No matter what you're doing, just keep going. Just keep going. God and the universe will reward you regardless of what it is. I just gave you a prime example of me throwing in pennies and getting rewarded. So if I could throw in pennies and get rewarded, you can do something right now. And there's a quote that goes with this. Raw action solves all. There's some bald famous guy said this, riding around in Bugattis and stuff. Raw action solves all. And that was a principle that I learned even from the Bible. The Bible, it was talking about just doing something. Faith without works is dead. Just doing something. You have to do something. So when I would sit up and pray and do these things, I would just, hit push-ups. I remember being at someone's house for a bit. I went over there, stayed with them for a bit. And they was just saying, man, I need money for a light bill. I need money for the light bill. And I said, well, let's hit 40 push-ups for it. Drop down, hit 40 push-ups. Boom, boom, boom. Hit 40 push-ups. Later that day, the light bill money came. Like, raw action solves. So when you go through these times, you need to just think, okay, I can just do something. For me, it was just putting away the bed, selling my bed. Sell my bed, sell my video, just do something. Just try. So I'm going to end it right here. Thank you for watching if you truly watched to the end. Also, if you want to like, subscribe, and comment, whatever, I truly could care less. I'm doing this just to even speak. Also, in case of deletion, there's a free Telegram and Substack in the description. In case of deletion, I don't know how long YouTube will keep me up, or they have these strikes and these guidelines. They're so adamant about these things. So just in case I get deleted in the future, those 2 links are there.